All right, so Will Levis, congratulations, you are a Titan. Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Welcome into the Hot Read podcast for Monday, May the 1st. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, director of published content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network, and we've got a special one for you today. It's the reactions live from our NFL Draft live broadcast this past weekend. We, JT and I on night one, and then Stoney Keeley of the Sobros Network and I on night two were together broadcasting live on Broadway Sports Media on 440, on my Twitter account, on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We were everywhere. We were broadcasting, and a couple hundred of you joined us. So thank you so much for doing that. We have cut up and put together the reaction and analysis in real time from myself, producer JT, and Stoney Keeley to the first three picks the Titans made in this draft. Round one, of course, JT and I reacting to and breaking down Peter Skoronski, offensive lineman out of Northwestern. And then night two began the broadcast with the shocking revelation. The Titans will be moving up in the second round to the 33rd overall pick to draft Will Levis out of Kentucky, the quarterback of the future, the quarterback that Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel have chosen to hitch their wagon to going forward and potentially their careers. And then they make a move for the heir apparent to Derrick Henry, perhaps, in Tyjae Spears, running back out of Tulane with the 81st pick, I believe, off the top of my head, in the 80s, somewhere in there. But we have reaction and analysis to all of those things. There are some shocking moments. There are some disappointing moments for some. There are some exciting bits of analysis in here that I think that you will find fascinating. And while it is all kind of off the dome in the moment, very much a live reaction, an honest gut, split second decision that we have to make to react to these different guys being drafted. It sure was a ton of fun, and I hope that you guys enjoy getting to relive or live for the first time our analysis of the Titans' first three draft picks. We will be going through all of the draft and analysis discussion. I have a trillion thoughts that I'm going to boil down for you in tomorrow's episode. We've moved the first post-draft episode in earnest with producer JT and I, our traditional episodes, to Tuesday morning. So this is coming out Monday night. If you catch it then, great. Tomorrow morning, you'll have the post-draft episode. We're going to do Fake Questions, Real Answers, which is a segment we've done before, but at this one I'm super excited about. It's the biggest and best version of Fake Questions, Real Answers yet. I can't wait for that, so make sure to check that out on Tuesday morning on this feed. But for now, let's get to the live broadcast of NFL Draft Live by Broadway Sports Media, our reaction to the first three Titans picks.
Welcome in, everybody, to our second annual edition of NFL Draft Live here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We are, of course, the Hot Read podcast usually, but today's production is for Broadway Sports Media, and we are super excited to be covering the entirety of round one and round two.
I'd like to be the CEO of my company, but that doesn't mean I'm capable. Fair?
Are we talking about Skoronski?
I think so.
Well, okay, but what if you had 3 years of tape that did nothing but demonstrate that you were capable? So that's the argument.
And here we go.
We'll talk more about it if that truly is what goes on here. He's my guy. He's been my guy. He was my tackle too. He remains my tackle too. This is a stud. Peter Skoronski, by the way, for those that happen to be listening to us for draft announcements. Titans, you're first of all, Titans fans, and
take a breath.
Well, watch them trade back up to 19 for Will Levis. They can probably breathe a sigh of relief here. You don't have Will Levis. We're done talking about that as a possibility. Okay. Now, amazing that they go with a guy that from the beginning.
And by the way, I just looked at Broadway. By the way, we're doing great coverage here. We also have some other guys over here doing a reaction to the Titans,
who are high-fiving and celebrating, which I guarantee, based on I know the opinions of these guys, they are not happy that it's Skoronski. They are ecstatic that it wasn't Levis. And when Mike Herndon puts his hand on his heart, takes a deep breath, That is exactly what I would expect as a
I
reaction
mean,
from them.
look at these guys.
They're having a good.
They're having a good time now.
They've maybe had a little bit too good of a time so far, but I'm glad they're having a good time. They'll be on live for a little bit, not the whole night, but for a little bit reacting. Let's react here. So Skoronski, I can give my spiel on him. Let me pull up my write up on him because I think it's really poignant as to what we're talking about here. Oh, we got a big call. Who's that from? Not somebody worth talking to. Okay.
No, it's my source on Jack Campbell, who says Jack Campbell's the next pick.
Okay.
And he keeps calling me
not to tip too many picks. Not to tip too many. That's number 2. I'm really sorry. It's Jack Campbell next, guys. I will say, hey, this just crossed my mind. Lions on the board. Forever it was Christian Gonzalez to the Lions. They moved back to 12. Wow. If they want Gonzalez, he's still there.
It'd be a home run.
And then you go get a stud defensive rusher later in the first round, and you come away with a Motor City MCDC and the Motor City Kitties this year are. I'm a big fan. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. They are a lot of fun. Now,
are they the number 1 contender if they take JSN here? What if they take Dalton Kincaid here? What if they?
Do you mean number 1 contender in the NFC?
Yes, in the NFC.
South, I think
in NFC North. If they take
no
JSN or Dalton Kincaid here.
NFC, just the NFC. I think that they, based on how the draft goes, could be a contender. Now there are some, like the Eagles are going to be tough, right? I get that. The Niners are going to be tough, but and if we should probably start boosting people to come in here on Twitter. I just realized it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, probably not. Tell me how a guy who doesn't have 34-inch arms can play left tackle. He doesn't have to.
How about I read my? He doesn't have to, but let me read my write up on him. Okay. Here's what I wrote in our draft guide, which, by the way, you should definitely be tuning into right now because it's something that is great to follow along
as
with.
The Lions are picking.
Okay, let's get the Lions picking real quick. Wow! First big shocker of the night. Jahmyr Gibbs is the 2nd running back off the board. Not even there at the draft. Now we've been hearing all week, guys. At least these 2 guys are going in the first round. They're going in the first round. The Lions offense is, and here's the thing: if they're trying to shore up their offensive firepower, and they still need a cornerback, this is the deepest position group in the draft. They can still get a stud running. They could get Emmanuel Forbes or Deontay Banks in the 20s. Like they still can shore up that defense, but this is going to make that offense so electric. I cannot wait to watch the Lions play football.
So the Lions have Roll Tide, I guess. He's probably the only Alabama player I'll ever root for because I think he's just that dynamic, and I'm happy that he's going to the Motor City Kitties here. I'm happy he's going to a team that's going to use him effectively. I question why they took him still.
I love this PFT commenter. Titans have a Peaky Blinder in the war.
Oh, he does.
he does look like a Peaky Blinder.
Why did the I don't know, man.
All right, we'll talk about that more. We're a Titans focused show, so let's talk a little bit more.
Why did the Lions just take DeAndre Swift with a couple more pounds on him?
Well, they don't think that he is that. Clearly,
so they have
if they took him at 12, they don't think that's
DeAndre Swifts. Then basically,
Swift's not there anymore.
DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, he got traded.
He did?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. Yeah, or no. Sorry. It was the backup that got traded, wasn't it?
Jamal Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
I'm sorry, I got the wrong. Holy widescreen monitors in the Lions draft room.
Wow.
And they are
ecstatic that
they are
fell there. Fell there.
Dan Campbell with his hand on his heart. They were worried he wouldn't be there. Clearly, JT, what we're learning here is the league all knew that the league was much higher on Jahmyr Gibbs than the public was. Now, let me read my write-up on Skoronski, okay? Here's what I wrote in the draft guide. Oh, thank you. Perfect. I said, Skoronski is the most talented offensive lineman in the draft, and with that, very few disagree. The very large sticking point on him is where he'll play in the NFL, tackle or guard. A phenomenal tackle in college, Skoronski allowed an incredible 1 sack, 2 hits, and 3 hurries all season long in 2022. Over the course of his college career, he faced a number of edge rushers who are now already finding success in the NFL and dominating. Go watch the Peter Skoronski versus Aiden Hutchinson tape, for example. But his 32 1/4 inch arms are severely below the traditional 34-inch benchmark for offensive tackle length, which raises significant concerns about his ability to consistently win against insanely long NFL pass rushers on Sundays. I have maintained all year long that his floor is what makes him a do draft player Worst case, Titans fans, Peter Skoronski is a day one starting guard with legitimate all-pro potential out of the gate. And for a GM, and this is the biggest thing right here, JT, that I want to talk about, for a new GM making his first ever pick, looking to hit at least a double on their first ever draft, Skoronski may be the best bet in the entire class. And so I think the big element of this is when you've got a brand new GM like Ran Carthon on the heels of a guy who got fired for things that arguably he did during the draft. I mean, really, because of what he did during the draft. This is the kind of thing where you cannot strike out big time on your first pick. A Will Levis for the Titans would probably be more of a risk in this situation if John Robinson was still around, for example, or Ran was 4 or 5 years into his tenure. But like you mentioned on the pod, what was it, yesterday or the day before, when you're a GM and you draft a quarterback in the first round, you start a doomsday clock for yourself, right? And so that's something that he chose not to do. He went with the guy that was a guaranteed double. Is it a home run? Maybe. If he ends up being the tackle that he was in college, which, guys, here's the thing about Skoronski and what makes him such a fascinating evaluation. In the draft, when you're evaluating players, when these scouts and front offices evaluate players, the big deal is how do you balance valuing traits and valuing tape? Those are the two elements boiled down to the most broad possible thing. Those are the categories you're looking at. What is the guy's traits? What is his athleticism, his build, his size, his burst, his speed? And then what has he produced already on tape? What does he look like? Functionally, how athletic is he on the field? Functionally, how strong does he play? What's his technique like? How well did he do against guys that we've seen in the league? And like I mentioned, with a guy like Skoronski, we saw him 4 years. JT, in the past 3 years, how many stud edge rushers or defensive linemen have come out of the Big Ten? A bunch of first round guys, a bunch of guys like that, like Aiden Hutchinson, for example. On tape, I did not find a game in which you could get to the end of that tape and say, he lost. Skoronski lost. Every single game against these guys who have now come into the NFL and been studs at the NFL level, he won as a left tackle. So if you're a tape guy, if you value tape over traits, then you consider Skoronski, while the biggest, truly, and this is the thing, truly the biggest outlier in terms of length at the tackle position ever, in terms of guys that can succeed, right? We've got guys that come out with his arm. Most guys that come out who played tackle in college with this arm length immediately go to guard. They're even scouted as guards.
Yep.
But if he is succeeding in the NFL as a tackle, he will be the biggest outlier in terms of length that we've ever seen. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's unlikely. If you're basing it on the tape, he's going to be that outlier. The tape demands that you say he's going to be that outlier. If you're a traits person, then it's really clear, right? We do you remember when we went through in Indianapolis on the day that we got to speak with Skoronski and we looked at all the mock draftables since 1999 in their database, how many guys had his arm length or lower that played tackle in the league? And it was a list of like 7 dudes, and they were all disasters. The Packers pick is in here, by the way. Let's see who they take. Wow! You got it!
Lucas Van Ness, let's go!
One of your 2 Iowa boys is off the board, frankly, way earlier than we thought.
Yeah.
I want to finish this thought. We'll pause, and then I promise we'll get to Van Ness. If you're a traits person with Skoronski, it is really, really clear. I love that shirt on him, by the way. That's a very cool old school shirt.
That's a very St. Xavier high school shirt. Like I'm surprised that
shirt would work.
I'm surprised
on the main
he's not like
of
he's
Green
not
Bay,
like
Wisconsin.
It is like
he's
okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm the one sidetracking us now. If you're a traits person with Skoronski, he's going to be a guard. Now, again, I don't understand in terms of positional value. Yes, at 11 in the first round in general, almost always drafting a guard is bad positional value, and certainly within the top 15 picks, it's the tackles you're looking for. We're going to find out shortly what the Titans view him as, right? We'll get press conferences. We'll get speaking with the Titans, all of these things they're going to do in the coming days. We'll hear what they think. I'm sure whether they actually believe it or not, they're going to say, we believe he can play anywhere on the offensive line. We think he can be a great tackle like he was in college. We think that he'd be, one of the best guards in the league. We're going to see. And as much as Titans fans probably hate this, JT, they're not huge fans of this at all. We are setting ourselves up. Get ready for July and August. It is going to be battle palooza on the offensive line. with these not tweeners, but like really, really versatile linemen they brought in. The guys they brought in free agency, Daniel Brunskill and Andre Dillard. And then you add Skoronski to this mix. You've got Aaron Brewer, who's been moved around a lot. The assumption is he'll be a center. You've got Nicholas Petit-Frere on the right tackle side, who seems to be the most solid guy who's going to be one of the tackles on the right side, but he absolutely can move inside. He's a guy that could have played guard coming out. He still can play guard. I think he'd be a really good guard. All 5 of these guys are not locked into a position.
Logan Grady says, Easton, I'm trying to like you, but I'm still so pissed that they took Peter Skoronski.
Logan, okay, I'm not trying to have a one-way conversation here, but before I respond to you, elaborate. What are you mad about? Are you mad about the positional value? Did you just not like the player to begin with? Are you mad they didn't go with something like, I get it, in general, linemen aren't the flashiest pick. What exactly are you mad about? And I can address that because there's a number of things you could be mad about, I guess. Did you see the guy with the giant Kenny Pickett head?
No,
dude, the massive Kenny Pickett head.
Though, man. Oh.
Wherever he sits in the Steelers stadium, the guys around him hate him. You know, that's such a wide hat. Oh, cool fountain. They turned it on.
This is an interesting idea. Let's say Zay Flowers falls to the late 20s. I think he's a guard. You don't take a guard at 11.
Okay, so Logan, I question, and I'm not trying to demean you or call you out. I question whether or not you are buying too much into the group think of you can't take a guard at 11. You can't take a guard at 11. You can't take a guard at 11. The nerds pound this till the cows come home. Like you tackle in the first. You don't take anybody but tackles in terms of offensive linemen. And in terms of positional value, yes, I get it. But you are making assumptions, first of all. You are saying he's a guard when you do not. You think you do, you do not. Nobody knows because the 2 most important elements, like I said, of football evaluation, tape and traits. I've not covered the draft for long, but I have never covered anybody in any round, studied anybody in every round whose traits and tape more aggressively, directly contradict each other than Peter Skoronski. It is a coin flip, and it is entirely dependent on whether or not you believe in the tape or whether or not you believe in the traits. But Logan, you watch the Titans. You know how bad this offensive line has been for a couple of years now, and you have, I'm sure, watched the Colts for years with Quentin Nelson. Sorry to pause this thought. Steelers have the pick in here, but sorry. Back to what I was saying, Logan. Jordan says automatic Dennis Daly grade. Hey, I can tell you this much. Even if Skoronski isn't a tackle, even if he fails as a tackle, he will be if they force it and play him at left tackle. He'll be twice as good as Dennis Daly was. But I'll say this, Logan, you are close enough to the Titans to have seen how bad they've been. You are close enough in terms of the people that I'm assuming who you watch to the Colts to see the first couple of years, the first 3 or 4 years.
So the Steelers gave up 17 and 120 to move up to 14.
So they move up 3 spots and have to give up a 4th round pick. Okay, that makes sense.
Late 4th.
Mid to late 4th. Mid to late 4th.
Yeah.
So Logan, you've seen what Quentin Nelson with the Colts,
Honestly,
a stud All-Pro guard, did for them. Now, has he had an off year or two? Yes, but it's largely been, I think, because the talent around him has been so bad, it's been forcing him to do so much that's just impossible for him to succeed. But you saw in those first couple of years what having a stud, not a good guard, a bona fide out of the gate, no assembly required. This is not an IKEA package with Peter Skoronski, okay? This is not a developmental pick at all. It's one of the least developmental picks you're going to get. He's going to be a good NFL guard day one, and by the end of this first year, there's a very good chance he's a stud guard. And that can work wonders for an offensive line. Can it work wonders in the way that a stud left tackle out of the box can? No. And that's where the positional value comes in. Is it something that, is it something that can buoy your offensive line? There are offensive lines out there, JT, where they have 2 good to great tackles and then a bunch of in between them, and it doesn't matter, right? We've seen with the Colts, like if you don't have at least decent tackles on the outside, having an amazing guard isn't going to buoy your offensive line. So that, again, those are the pitfalls. But worst case scenario, man, you just got a perennial All-Pro player, a perennial Pro Bowler, a guy that this first year you're not going to see. Like, this is not about to be NPF, where it's a growing pains first year, where it's I don't know like quite if he's going to work out. And NPF had a good first half of the year, kind of fell off in the back half of the year, a lot of growing pains. That is not going to be the case with Peter Skoronski. He's going to compete with Andre Dillard for that. It's going to be Andre Dillard and Skoronski, left side of the line, either guard tackle or tackle guard. They're going to compete all summer. We're going to have to talk about it, and it's going to be annoying to folks, but it's going to be fine because those two. I mean, JT, today the Titans' left side of the line is Peter Skoronski, who is a first-round offensive tackle, maybe a guard, and Andre Dillard, who 2 or 3 years ago was a first-round offensive tackle that some say struggled, some say didn't really get a chance. He certainly has not yet lived up to the billing, but was a first-round talent in terms of tape, in terms of traits. So the upside is there. This is a left side of the line now with Andre and with Peter. Whereas a month ago or 2 months ago, JT, your left side of the line was Corey Levin, Brewer and Dennis Daly. Your left side of the offensive line is 7 times better today than it was. Seven times better.
The pick isn't sexy,
and it's
sure.
And it's a force multiplier, right? Because
yes.
how helpful is this going to be for Ryan Tannehill? How helpful is it going to be for Derrick Henry? How helpful is it going to be for Treylon Burks, who now might have the time to get down the field to get open? He couldn't get down in time. All right, hey, welcome into night 2 of NFL Draft Live, a Broadway Sports Media, and tonight Sobros Network joint production.
Back at it again.
I'm Easton Freeze, and this is my man Stoney Keeley of the Sobros Network. He is joining me. Super excited that you are willing to come and nerd out all night. Although you told me when I asked you, you're like, I didn't write this mammoth draft guide.
Yeah, I don't know
to not contribute to the day 2 and the day 3 musings and letting people know, because you're one of the few folks covering the draft in town that like truly tomorrow you're gonna like know a lot of these guys. You're gonna have an opinion on a lot of these guys.
There's a lot of guys that are gonna go late that I'm rooting for.
And
and that's part of the fun of the process, finding these guys with good stories that have, traits that you kind of see a long shot path for them to make it in the NFL, and you want to see where they land and their story begin. So there's a lot of fun in that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, man, there's a lot of work. Like, why not put it to use? Why not hang out with whoever will have? It's Cam Smith or it's hold off on a cornerback until later.
I agree. If they were looking for somebody with some upside, I mean, Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're on Titans watch here, folks. Share this with friends and family. Let them know the Titans are on the clock. They have just traded up with the Arizona Cardinals to the 33rd pick, and it looks like they've made their pick because they're showing the War Room in Nashville, already on the phone with the owner and the GM and the Now if this is for Michael Mayer, which I think is less likely than for one of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I get it. And for the player, I'm super excited. If this is for one of the quarterbacks, things are going to get interesting here.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're looking at the cornerback board and they're thinking the same thing I am. Like, oh, man, we better go get Cam Smith. Because if we don't have a lot of other fits for what we do here on defense.
Yeah, I gotta get the phone out here because see if we can figure out what the compensation is. That's moving up 10 picks,
something like that.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how they're doing the numbering this year because weren't. There weren't 32 picks in round 1, but no, they are numbering it traditionally. Oh man, I don't know how I feel about this.
I feel like it's got to be
one of the trade up for, if not a quarterback. Do you love Mayer so much that you don't let him slide and act as Darnell Washington as a consolation prize? Like, do you feel that urgently about the Titans?
Oh, Zach, here we go. Zach's got us with the compensation. Sorry, Zach. He says 41 and 72 for 33 and 81. That's not bad in terms of giving up compensation at all. You maintain 2 picks tonight. You flip-flop seconds and thirds.
That's essentially what it sounds like, yeah.
So here we go. We're going to find out.
Oh, I'm going to puke.
It's going to be Will Levis. I think it's going to be Will Levis. All right, so Will Levis, congratulations, you are a Oh wow, that is amazing. All right, so where do we want to start? Do we want to start with just our evaluation of Will Levis? Do we want to start with the decision to do this here and not have the conviction to do it in the first round? Let's see what the chat is talking about here. Zach said the compensation they just added. Okay, so the Titans do give up a third round next year as well in the trade, which makes more sense. That didn't seem quite like it was all there. So first of all, Titans fans, here's the silver lining. You didn't you in terms of value, you did not spend a first round pick on him. You did not sell the farm in terms of compensation to go up to get him in the first round. And in terms of the compensation, in terms of the draft picks you have here, you still got 4 more picks in this draft. You're not, even if you hate Will Levis, right?
Let me wipe the tears from my eyes.
If I told you, 6 picks in this draft, if I told you 6 picks in the draft, 3 of them are really good players. You're happy with that. 4 of them are really good players, really good draft. Yeah. Okay, so if people are sold on the fact that Will Levis bust, wasted a pick, whatever, you wasted a second. That sucks. But you didn't spend a first, and you have the same number of picks in this draft as you had when you came in.
Yeah.
So it's not the world-ending scenario that it would have been yesterday. But I think a lot of folks are really unhappy about this. I will say. And go ahead.
Add to that point, if we're talking silver lining scenario here, who else would have been the potential difference maker that Will Levis could be in this spot?
Just in terms of upside. Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean,
you're right.
You've checked the offensive line box, which to me was the biggest need for this team going into the draft. Was there a wide receiver at this spot that was so much better than what you could potentially get in round 3 through 7 that you hold on to the picks instead of just sacrificing it, roll the dice on what Levis could become? I think that's they're showing it's a lot different vibes from when AJ Brown was traded.
They're all very happy about
Everybody
it.
looks happy.
I mean, we were talking about this before the stream. It is funny how people get so up in arms about the draft trying to predict what's going to happen, because these teams don't care what you think. They're going to do what they want, what they think is best, and they're going to make this decision. The biggest question mark, really, Stoney, is if they didn't have the conviction to take him yesterday, why take him now? That's always the question when you take a second-round quarterback, right?
Well, I think it is just.
Is it a value proposition?
It's just the value.
Now, I will say this. Perhaps we got the Lions already in here. Let's see what they go with. I told you Sam Laporta might go early. Look at that. Ahead of
you called that.
I didn't. I undersold him. He goes ahead of even Michael Mayer, which is making me now wonder, were there not character concerns, but the interviews not great with Mayer?
Did you see the clip of him last night, like the lip reading thing where people were saying he was saying that he's better than Dalton Kincaid? He was like irritated.
Oh no, I did not see that.
I mean, definitely most handsome player in the draft. I don't know about
you think
character.
so?
I don't know about the character concerns, but Michael Mayer,
he's a good looking guy.
Looks like an Abercrombie model.
Sure.
Yeah.
We disagree on Sam Laporta. I like him. You don't as much. I feel like we need to go back and spend some more time on the Titans pick here. So
let's
for those that may be just tuning in. And again, if you are listening, we appreciate you being here and sharing with friends. It's a situation where, like you were saying a second ago, in terms of players left on the board, if I told you every player left in the draft, it's their perceived ceiling.
Yeah.
Who has the biggest impact on their team? It's the fourth and, in my opinion, final quarterback in this class that has the chance to be a plus starter in the NFL. Yeah. Now, it's a risky. He's obviously, I think there's a riskier proposition with Levis than the other 3, but his ceiling is high enough. I mean, I don't know if we were on streams. I don't think I mentioned this on stream. No, I did. The Matthew Stafford comp, right? Like that's Titans fans should take solace in the fact that if he turns out the best that he can be, I believe a Matthew Stafford style quarterback is his ceiling, which is
I would agree.
Like an 8th through, Matthew Stafford, a lot of his career, he was like the, 7th through 12th best quarterback in the league. Everyone for years in Detroit was talking about just put him on a good team, he can win a Super Bowl. They put him on a good team and he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So if that's the ceiling, then you can take solace in that. I also will point this out, and I want your opinion on this, but I'm guessing you'll agree. The number one, with a bullet, not even close, most understated element of the draft is fit. Fit.
Yeah.
There are so many like when a prospect busts, people are just like, oh, it turns out he wasn't good after all. I feel like 70% of the time when a prospect that was supposed to be good busts, it has more to do with where they landed and the coaches that they had, the teachers that they had, the development that they had, maybe being thrown into the fire earlier than they should have been, than the fact that they were just a bad player. Now, some players just don't have it at the NFL level.
Yeah.
But especially with quarterback play, which is such an important but complicated position, if you go to a good team as a quarterback, you are infinitely more. I mean, we saw it with Mac Jones. He looks like the best quarterback in that class immediately. Although clearly in that first year, everyone could go back to the draft and be like, yeah, he's not the best quarterback.
Right.
In that first year, you're like, oh, wow, because he goes to the best landing spot. In terms of landing spots, Will Levis has to be relatively happy because he's landing with a team that has been very, very competent for the past half decade.
Presumably, you would think that he gets time to sit behind Tannehill. You still think there's a chance that they move on from him and just start Levis right away?
Not with this pick here. No, I mean,
I wouldn't think so either, but it's been a hot topic this offseason.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. If we hadn't seen and heard all the smoke with Tannehill in the past 2 weeks about him being at OTAs, we heard today he's texting Peter Skoronski last night, welcoming him to the team. Like he's, doing all these things, very much a part of this team right now. And Rand Carthen, vaguely put it the other day that Ryan already knows where he's at with this team. He knows his standing.
Yeah. And
so if he knows his standing and is choosing to come to OTAs, is choosing to talk to his new teammates and welcome to the team. If he knows he's probably not around, why is he welcoming the guy that he's not going to play with? You know what I mean?
It's a fair point.
I think the conclusion here is pour one out for Malik Willis. Welcome to the practice squad.
Yeah. Now that's
or maybe some other team decides to buy low on Willis. Maybe there's a trade.
Yeah.
Do you think that he carries any value at all? I mean, not a high round pick, but you've only seen 1 year of development with him coming out. Obviously, the league wasn't super high on him because he fell to the 90s.
Yeah.
But he's still got, in terms of upside, he was very athletic, right? There's things there you just wonder between the ears if he's got it or not. I could see them potentially, if Michael Variable hates him as much as people think that he hates him.
Yeah.
You could see them try to move him for a 5th round pick or something. You know what I mean?
I would agree. I could also see them just saying like, hey, come to camp. And that's the first step for Will Levis's development. Like beat out Malik Willis here.
Yeah.
Send Malik Willis packing.
All right. So
there goes
my mayor. Finally, I love that pick for them.
Yeah. I do too.
You get to just go ahead and replace Darren Waller, who they ship off to New York. You've got a nice tight end now to pair with. I mean, there's no assembly out of the box with him. He'll be a weapon for Jimmy Garoppolo day one, and he will be a glorified lineman that can maul in the run game. There's so much to love about Michael Mayer.
Man, I watched the Notre Dame game with him. I'm sorry, the Ohio State.
All of them? Yeah.
I watched the Ohio State game, and the way they used him as a blocker was effectively like a 6th offensive lineman. And he was a lot of the reason that they were able to move the ball on offense the way that they were.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really impressive to me how whatever he was called upon to do in that offense, he did well. I know the speed and the athleticism stuff is there. I love the Jason Witten comp too. He's such a good refined blocker, and I think he's a pretty good receiver too. So correct me if I'm wrong. Still reacting to the news, the Titans.
Wes on Broadway said it's Bo Callahan is now a Tennessee Titans quarterback.
That's good.
That's funny.
That's good.
Hey, AFC South, 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks in the consensus QB 2, 3, 4 are now all in the AFC South. They joined Trevor Lawrence. It's a new era in the AFC South.
Who would have thought? I think it was pretty likely that the AFC South could end up with 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks, but who would have thought that it would have gone Stroud to the Texans, Richardson to the Colts, Levis to the Titans? That seems pretty.
You didn't see a whole lot of prediction on that. Zach asks, and this is a fair question: what are the odds, and we can maybe a 1 in 10, what are the odds you think Will Levis sets foot in the new stadium in 2027? Zach says as a starter. Maybe we can tack onto that just to add all. I think the odds he's still on the team in 2027 are quite high. Relative. I mean, like I'd give it a 50-50 shot probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rookie contract lasts that long.
Right, exactly. So unless he's a true disaster,
yeah,
he's going to stick around.
I mean,
but as a starter,
I'm not the biggest Levis fan at all, and were we on the air when I was talking about having him in the 40s? Like, I don't think
I forget. We shouldn't have had
I know.
We had a lengthy conversation that was worthy of putting on a live stream before. So now I can't remember what we said before or after.
But I had him that low for a reason, and it's because I don't project him to be a long-term starter in the NFL. So
right.
I'm gonna say he's not, and I'm gonna give it like a 0%.
0%.
I don't
0% chance.
I think
I disagree completely. I think
going to be a guy that's going to get a shot, but I just don't see it with him. I'm just not there with Levis.
Those of you that are listening in and are in the chat, let us know how you're feeling. I want to hear what people are thinking about this. Give me on a scale of 1 to 10, just give me a number. 1 being you're very happy, 10 being you're furious. How upset are you with Levis at 41, not in the first round, coming to be a Titan? I think the biggest question that we're gonna make, I mean, I'm not super confident we'll get an answer on this when they do the press conference tomorrow or whenever it is, but we'll start to get an idea in a couple of months. Are we right to assume that Tannehill is still around? And if so, is it going to be a long leash situation for Tannehill where it is, okay, no matter what, are we doing the Chicago Bears thing with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields where we're going to kind of like, maybe we may want to start him by week 8 and then it becomes a media discussion? Or is it hey, we plan on Levis sitting and developing all year. We'll see you in 2024. Ryan Tannehill, you're the guy for this team right now.
I think the fact that they didn't,
or again, do they just give the reins? That's the third option. Tannehill's out somehow and they give the reins to Levis to see what they have in him.
I think the fact that they went with the safe pick with Skoronski last night and they didn't just give up the farm to go up and get Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, whoever they liked, at 3 to get away from the Colts, or picked Levis at 11. I think that should tell us that they probably feel that there's a way to do both this season, be competitive in 2023 with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, while also having a contingency plan for 2024 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way this draft is falling, they're telling us like, hey, we're going to do what we can to be a good team in 2023
around the quarterback.
Quarterback.
Yep.
And we're going to ride with Tannehill. He gives us the best chance to win. We're going to protect him. We're going to beef up the offensive line in free agency. We're going to draft Peter Skoronski. We're going to go get this thing in 2023, but also we're already thinking ahead to beyond the Ryan Tannehill days with Will Levis.
So we've got a trade here. Let's see. Oh, no, just kidding. This is old news. Never mind.
My phone is blowing up, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, can somebody in the chat let us know real quick, just because it's hard to do so many things at once. Hey, our guy, Steve Avila. The juggernaut.
Michael Myers. Let's go.
I love that pick for anybody, but for the Rams, good for them. That's the kind of guy you can build around as you put together a new team. And I'm sort of surprised he's off the board before Cody Mock, but not really, because I think Avila is going to be a stud NFL player.
Yeah, I think scouts loved him.
And in terms of floor, I see a very high floor for him. I think in terms of bust potential, I don't see a ton of bust potential for Avila.
No.
Do you?
No, I don't. I think he's a safe prospect. Versatile guy, too, that'll be able to play guard or center. My co-host for the Unofficial Titans podcast, Outspoken Owen Reed, just called me. I told everybody.
He's trying to call into the show.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, we need to put him through. I would also, on the Will Levis thing, I want to, if Zach is still watching, I want to ask him a question. Zach, we were right about Will Levis not being a first-round draft pick, but at what cost? At what cost?
Where did he go? 33? So he was only not a first-rounder.
Well,
by the slimmest of possible margins.
And you factor in that there was one less first-round pick. I mean, he's literally one pick out of the first round. But
correct.
If we could do it again, would we rather be wrong about him not going in the first round or him end up being a Titan.
I see. Right. Yeah.
At what cost?
Well, and I tweeted that meme out at like 1 o'clock last night of the guy who's very happy and then very sad. And I was like, Titans fans dancing on the first round grave of Will Levis.
I know.
Very happy. And then you realize all the smoke about the Titans loving him, and 41 is right around the corner.
Yep.
And it was a little telling, I'd imagine. Because here we are.
We will always have last night, and I'll just hold on to that. I didn't mean for that to sound like sexual. At the party, we were doing some victory laps about him not going.
I noticed. Yeah. Well, these picks are coming in hot and heavy here. We're flying down the board.
Yeah.
Seahawks. Let's see. Derek Hall out of Auburn. Kind of surprised he's going this high, but I like him as a prospect a lot.
I like Derek Hall a lot too. Really safe prospect. I love what the Seahawks have done. They are crossing stuff off of their needs list right here. I mean, they've got 3 guys that are going to start week 1 for them in Jackson Smith and Jigba, Devin Weatherspoon, and now Derek Hall. Oh man, I love it. Penetrating, chasing the play down from the end.
He's a maniac.
The way I phrased it after watching him at the Senior Bowl, and keep in mind, Titans fans, for context, Bud Dupree was still on this team at that time.
Yes.
But I told everybody the trendy thing to say about Bud Dupree with the Titans was that he was a force multiplier, right? Didn't necessarily get the sack production, but did a lot of other things that freed up other guys to get the sacks. That's kind of what I saw in Derek Hall. And I remember telling Zach, like, hey, I think Derek Hall could do for this defense what Bud Dupree did as a way for them to move on from Bud Dupree. And then they just signed Arden Key.
Zach says the cost was Carthen and Vrabel's job. That's an interesting segue to that's a funny response, but a serious question. Typically when a new or newish GM takes a quarterback highly, and at 41, it's a different proposition. Definitely it's the case when you take a quarterback in the first 10 to 15 picks as a GM, it begins a doomsday clock for either you or your coach, but probably you, right? And it's like, okay, you've got a 2 or 3 year leash. You better not mess up the rest of the draft picks, and you better hope that this guy works out, or else you may be on the streets.
Yeah.
At where he ends up going, I guess 33 is where he ended up going in the end. Do we think this puts any job pressure on either Vrabel or Carthon with Amy Adams-Strunk? We saw the video of her also very excited. But I guess all owners are going to be. Do you think if Tannehill sticks around, it's hard for it to be a true disaster, right? I guess that's really the upside. Yeah,
that is the upside. That's the exact word that I was.
Worst case, he's no impact, and the team is, like, I think that the floor for this team is still mediocre.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I don't see it being a job canceling thing unless, we saw last year, Amy Adams-Strunk, her bar for employment is very high.
Yeah.
So it can go downhill fast.
Sure.
Real fast. You can go downhill. We'll give you a new contract in April and we'll fire you in November fast. So anything can happen. It's currently April, and by November it may be a new landscape, but I don't see it being one of those situations.
I don't see it being one of those situations because, to your point, I just don't think it can get bad enough to get to that point. Because, look at how quickly they were willing to pivot away from Malik Willis. Literally before the season's even over. They're calling Josh Dobbs
through 2 starts of Willis, 3 starts of Willis. Yeah.
So I feel like if Levis is a disaster, you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly. And they would say, unless
they just sit him. But once they start playing him.
Once they start playing him, I think they'll pretty quickly know whether he's got it or doesn't and would pivot from him. Oh, I love that pick.
I love this pick. And JT, our resident Falcons ish fan, he has got to be happy with this pick because, man, I can't wait I'm going to watch Atlanta religiously this year.
Dude,
they may not be good. They're going to be so fun.
They are, fun. Yeah.
Fun.
Bijan Robinson, Matthew Bergeron. What do you think this team's going to do?
They got like offense, Nate Tice in the background of that party. I don't think it is. Yeah, that was interesting. Bergeron's awesome. I was talking on Twitter earlier today. If the Titans would have doubled down with the tackle at any point tonight, he would be when they still had the 41st pick, would be a nice guy to go with. A better pass blocker than he is a run blocker, but above average grades in both the past couple of seasons.
I was really impressed by his tape against Clemson, which they're showing highlights from now, and the tape against NC State. Both really good. Really good athletic traits. I think he's a little more technical than he's being given credit for. At times, there were times I would watch and it would just be, it almost looked like an issue of, I don't want to say not knowing where to go, but conviction maybe in his blocks, like getting out and just seeking somebody to hit was my only real nitpick on Bergeron. But I thought he could have been a surprise selection in the first round last night. Much more complete tackle prospect. There were people earlier on in the draft process that wanted to move him into guard. I think you give him the spot at left tackle, and he's got the goods to make it, man.
All right, we got JT calling in from Citi Field in New York. Let's see what he has to say. I'm assuming this is about Will Levis.
Okay.
JT, welcome into the show all the way from New York. I'm assuming this is a Will Levis related call.
It is. What's going on, boys? As I have my Buck Rising moment here and take shelter in the Citi Field club suites here to give you this call away from my bottle service. I don't know what's worse. Will Levis going there to the Titans at 33, or the rain that's happening at this game right now. It's comfortably raining. It's not like pouring, but it's not like
just enough to be annoying. Yeah,
it's a little annoying. I'm drenched, but I'm having a good time.
That's probably how a lot of Titans fans feel right now. You didn't get Levis in the first, but still a little annoyed.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear it from my phone. I actually heard it from the Mets fan behind me who just
just blurted it out.
Titans took Levis, and I said, "Oh, here we go."
Oh, here we go. What is there to say?
What is there to say?
Yeah.
Like, draft compensation doesn't make you outraged, but it stings enough to be like, is that worth it for Will Levis there? Obviously, not moving too far back in the third.
It's not backbreaking. It's not a backbreaking, franchise altering.
You're giving a third round pick next year. I don't know if you answered my question. It doesn't start a clock for. It's interesting to see if this was more of a Mike Vrabel guy or a Rand Carpet guy. If we'll ever hear that, I don't know. If it doesn't, if Will Levis,
I know we're never going to hear that answer, by the way. But yeah.
I don't know if this starts the time. It might be time for Mike Vrabel here. We might have just seen them put their chips on the table for a quarterback to develop.
Well, we were just talking about that very question, which I saw that you submitted in the chat. I think we kind of came to the consensus of it all depends on when and where they play him, or when they end up playing him, and if it involves Ryan Tannehill still being on the team and being.
And that's still probably to be seen tonight.
Yeah, I'd say we think it's unlikely that Tannehill goes, but it's certainly, I gave it a 10% chance. I think there's a 90% chance he's on the team, 10% something crazy happens.
It's going to be interesting. Once again, it makes me just feel ugly about it, but I'm happy because there's no shortage of things to talk about the next 6 months now.
Hey, sure. From a content creation standpoint, certainly interesting.
Sorry, guys. We're going to talk about this for 6 months, I guess.
I'm excited. But I've always been way higher on Levis than everybody else. Well, not always, actually. I had him as my quarterback 4 from the beginning. I thought he was the 3rd or the 4th best guy in the class from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was when we were considering him a potential QB1. And I was like, y'all are crazy. He's not a quarterback 1 in this class. He's not a first overall pick. Yeah. But then everyone decided that Will Levis is the worst person on the planet.
Sorry. No, I agree. It's sticking with me that Daniel Jeremiah comps Jay Cutler to Will Levis. And that's what sticks to me.
There are some bad comps out there, including Jay Cutler. I've also heard somebody very familiar to the Titans, Jake Locker. I've heard some comparisons.
My comparisons were either Matthew Stafford or EJ Manuel.
EJ Manuel. Those are two very different players.
That's his range for me. Yeah.
But here's the thing: my 50th percentile average comp for Will Levis has always been Ryan Tannehill. So from a continuity standpoint, you can see where they're going with it. The question is, why do you want another one of these? but clearly they think that they can win with it.
Wasn't Tannehill James Foster's comp for him too?
I think so. I saw a number of people comp Tannehill. I know Ben Solak also was comping him for Tannehill.
James Foster's super smart, so let's just hope.
Let's just go with that.
He's hope he's right. Oh, are you kidding me? There goes Mingo.
Your wide receiver 1 to the Panthers. So a target, a new target for Bryce Young.
I did try to tell you.
Tight ends going. Laporta going right after Mayer or vice versa, I think.
It was Laporta first.
Wow.
And I told Stoney earlier in the stream that I thought there was a decent chance he goes before. I just kind of the vibe I was getting. And there was some reporting earlier on it today. But all right, JT, we will maybe have you back later tonight if some more craziness ensues.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll give you guys a ring from the subway where we've had some very interesting sights on the New York subway today.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But I'm gonna go grab a burger and a gin and tonic from the bar here.
Okay.
And keep up the content, boys.
All right, we'll talk to you later. All right, so we are moving and grooving here. Here's the topic that I wanted to bring up, Stoney, that we haven't quite talked about yet. Well, actually, let's address some questions here in the chat. Tanner says, say Tannehill gets traded, who would be the likely team? Falcons is the first and immediate landing spot. I don't think that they're interested.
No, I wouldn't think. I mean, it sounds like they're in on Ritter.
They sure act like it.
Yeah, maybe Tampa Bay still.
Yeah, you could see that. I'm trying to think for other teams.
Maybe Washington.
Yeah. The question that I wanted to pose, it's less a question and more a topic, and we can take it where we want. We often see in the NFL, and it's one of the cooler dynamics of the NFL that I love, arms races within division and teams doing things directly in retribution or to keep up with another team. As early as last night, we see the Eagles get Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys just rage and go Mozzie Smith. You 1 for 1, which I love.
Yeah.
I love, but like you can't tell me those two things didn't have something to do with each other. You cannot tell me. You see, situations where Derrick Henry is reigning in the AFC South, and you get the barrage of teams in the AFC South bringing in the Jonathan Taylors, bringing in, the Jaguars bringing in ETN when they already had James Robinson. Yeah, Pierce coming in for the Texans. Like you see the AFC West a couple of seasons ago where it just became a full-on arms race at all positions.
Sure.
I think there's an element of this to what Buffalo did last night going with Kincaid. They're sick and tired of playing second fiddle to Travis Kelce. They want their own Travis Kelce, so that they contend in the AFC. Like that, it is very much these teams are approaching it from this is the obvious thing. You have to win your division, and then you have to win your conference, and then you have to win the Super Bowl. You got to approach your team building in that order, because if you look too far ahead and forget about your own division, and you don't build a team that is uniquely built to win in a division. We almost saw Buffalo do this 2 seasons ago. Do you remember when New England, first year with Mac, we had the game in the tornado where Mac throws for 3 yards on 3 attempts or whatever.
Yeah.
I think for that 1 week, they were tied in record, and everyone's like, Buffalo loaded up this offseason, but they got too ahead of themselves. They got so big of their britches. They started building to win in the AFC, and they didn't build to win in the weather in their division.
Yeah.
So
that's a great illustration.
It's a pitfall you can easily fall into.
Yeah.
And I think in the AFC South, clearly, now that we have 4 new quarterbacks in the past 3 years, and 3 of them came in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's an arms race for what I think, and I've been saying this, Stoney, I think that the AFC South is uniquely situated to pull a NFC least to NFC beast situation where the NFC East was such a disaster 2 years ago. And then they're the most powerful division in the league, because it became this arms race. Everybody gets a ton of picks. Everybody's kind of bad for a year, and then you shoot to the moon. It wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, especially if these quarterbacks hit. If at least 2 of the 3 that went in this draft hit, you've got Lawrence and then 2 other studs. Suddenly, the AFC South is a very different division.
Yeah, I would agree, and I talked about that. Forgive me, all the gin and club sodas I was drinking last night. I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but there was sort of a feeling that, hey, the AFC South as a whole is at one of those turning points where there's a shift in the division where it was just completely terrible this year. Wasn't really all that great the year before, and now We're seeing the Texans, the Jags have already hit the reset button.
Yep.
The Texans are doing it. The Colts are doing it. So the Titans are that last team, and maybe, hey, they just get in on the action here. Let's get our quarterback too, so that we can be prepared for this. I would like to ask if anybody's listening to this, let us know if you can hear my stomach growling, because I apologize.
We're going to take a break here in a second to get a little food. And
my
then we'll
microphone's
be back.
kind of low. Yeah.
Let's do this one more topic, and then we can take a quick break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes after we get some food ordered. This question is one that I've seen on Twitter already, and it's the obvious question when you have a quarterback come in that's young and has some promise in a lot of people's eyes. Wow, that is a dedicated Cardinals fan.
I have no idea. That guy just roamed in off the street.
I thought he was. That guy's homeless. Actually, he's just a crazy man downtown.
Yeah.
So when you get a guy who's a highly touted quarterback come in, the incumbent quarterback is there. You're a team that's kind of in this transitional phase the Titans are in. Obviously, they didn't tank last year, but things fell apart due to injuries. Based on the way that they've approached this offseason, it seems like they think they can still compete now. They don't need to hit a reset button. Don't need to tank. If anything, it's kind of a soft reset they've been going through the last 2 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is the correct way to go about who you play in the next 2 years? And the two, I'd say that there are 3 routes they can take. You can go what we initially said is probably most likely, and I'm not sure if we're going to agree on that by the end of this conversation. You go with Tannehill this year. You make it clear Levis is sitting. We will see you in 2024. He's going to develop. Tannehill, this is your team for at least one more year. Option 2, you pull a Justin Fields and Andy Dalton situation, which I'll go ahead and say I think is always the worst decision. Because when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
I would agree.
And you are not.
Well, look how that race kind of stunted.
It was a disaster. It got the head coach fired, got Justin Fields' development stunted. The team was horrible once he finally got the job. They weren't able to. So that we'll go ahead and say bottom of the barrel is don't do that. Be either in on Levis this year or be all the way out on Levis this year.
Yeah.
Unless there's an injury, obviously.
I would agree.
Yeah. Or option 3, you trade Tannehill. You get a significant amount of relief in terms of cap, but your quarterback play immediately drops a good bit. You're now going based off of hope and not what you currently have, because right this second, Tannehill is 25 times the quarterback that Will Levis is going to be.
Yeah.
Which is fair. He's a college quarterback, and Tannehill's a seasoned pro. We know that he's kind of an average NFL quarterback. But do you kick him to the curb on this third option? And the reason why you would do it, I'm assuming, is you know after year 1, you got a guy with some promise. We can rock and roll now. We'll keep going. We'll build around him. Or there's kind of the double bonus of you have an answer and it's disappointing because the guy sucked. And it's obvious that he sucks, and you got to get rid of him. But at least it's not a question that drags on for years and years. But the double whammy there is, well, we suffered for 1 year, but if he sucked so bad that we wanted to get rid of him, odds are that means that the whole team sucks so bad and the record sucks so bad that bingo, reload, 1 year reload. We're back at quarterback next year. We've got a chance to, or you go and you trade for somebody because you have $10 billion in cap cash next year. Like you kind of have your pick of the litter of quarterbacks. So it's really, it boils down to, do you subscribe to the tank and aggressive all-in model theory of football building, or do you subscribe to the New England Patriots, Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints model of always be competent and have a high floor but maybe a lower ceiling than the best teams that go all in?
I am with Zach on this, because I saw him tweet that start Levis, trade Tannehill, get the picks. And
get the picks, get the money.
Get the picks, get the money. Yeah, get the picks, get the money is the key part of that for me, because this team still right here and now needs a few more cornerstone type of pieces. And as I said earlier, I think this draft is 6 rounds deep with 3rd round talent. So I think you can still get a wide receiver, you can get your tight end, you can get an edge rusher, cornerback, all these things in this draft, but you need the picks. So you can still do a little team building in this draft and get those cornerstone type of pieces. And then if you figure out that Levis is not your guy, you can just plug and play whoever the quarterback of the future, beyond the quarterback of the future is. And it's an okay situation down the road still. I just don't think that's how Mike Vrabel is going to be thinking in this because of the
Mhm.
Skoronski pick. I think they are looking at it as
Well, and how they acted in free agency.
how they acted in free agency is we can plug a few holes and be competitive and win in 2023 and still have the added benefit of Ryan Tannehill's heir apparent being on this roster ready to go in 2024.
That was what I was going to say. The only hang up for me, and like when you lay it out like that with no added context, and it's like, okay, yeah, you get a bunch of extra cash, you get a bunch of extra picks, you get an answer within 1 year, you rip the Band-Aid off. You bid a fond farewell to Ryan Tannehill, who did a lot for this franchise and brought a lot of excitement and a ton of wins. But you move on and you find out within 1 year whether you've got a guy or you are now bad enough to go and get another guy. That's all awesome.
Yeah.
But then you plug in the factors of what they did with Skoronski, which I actually think Skoronski's the kind of guy. I'm very high on Skoronski. I think that he's the kind of foundational guy that even if they were gonna go all in on Levis and maybe blow it up, you still get him because he's the kind of guy that you could build around and after you blow it up, make him one of the pillars of the offense. But it was really the way that they acted in free agency, who they went and got, but even maybe more than who they went and got, who they didn't take off the team, who's still on the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way that they approached the entire free agency period, and they weren't super involved, but it was clearly, without exception, we are going to compete now. We're going to keep competing. Forget those last 7 games last year. That was an aberration. That was injuries.
Yeah.
We think that if we were healthy, we would have easily won the division, which I think that they would have done. So I think that's a fair assumption on their part. The question there is, okay, you win the division. That were you good enough to win a Super Bowl? Which I think the answer was probably no.
I would agree, but also let's allow for a little postseason magic. The spark.
I'm with you. I'm a hard line. I think the dumbest thing in sports is when people say you can or can't.
Yeah.
In the NFL in particular, in the NBA or the MLB, I have some more room for that because the 7-game series, you get a lot of averages. But in the NFL, are we not the same league that everyone agrees it's any given Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, look
in the postseason, we've seen crazy runs before.
Look what Jacksonville did when they got into the playoffs. Miracle comeback win over the Chargers. They played the Chiefs pretty decently.
Who was that team a couple years ago who went to New England and killed Tom Brady's career and then went and knocked off the #1 seed Ravens when they weren't they the last wild card into the entire tournament?
Like barely eked in that stretch of years that they were winning in week 18.
And then in the AFC Championship game, they were winning by a touchdown at halftime.
Yeah, I can't.
Against the team that went on to go win the Super Bowl, which is clearly the chosen team. Like,
it's on the tip of my tongue.
All I remember going into that playoff was thinking, I don't even know why we have this team in here. They can't do it. There's a 0% chance they win the Super Bowl. 0% chance. So that theory aside, they clearly think that they are competitive. So that leads me to believe it. 2 answers. What I would like them to do as of right this minute, and subject to change because give me 1 sleep to let my brain marinate on this. What I say now cannot be held against me unless it's genius and I was the first one to say it, in which case it absolutely counts. I would say I would be with Zach and I would be with you. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get some capital back in here. Let's go Levis. In that case, if Levis is truly a disaster, you've still got Malik there, so you can give him a try. If it's really just like if by week 8 you're already ready to say good, okay, we'll get 2 answers then. Get Malik in there too, and let's just see. Let's get 2 answers. Let's get them both out of here, or let's find out we have 1 stud quarterback. But if you were to, gun to my head, what do I think they're going to do? Easton Nostradamus, you got to guess. What are they going to do? I'm going to be kind of surprised if they do that. I think Tannehill's still on this team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think we agree on that wholeheartely. Are we going to watch the NBA playoffs now? Is that what we're?
Is this a commercial or is this? I don't know. What if we? Did I step on the remote?
Oh no, we're good.
Oh okay.
Are we good?
ESPN throwing it to. Is anybody else watching the ESPN feed? And
did they switch?
Oh, they
switched
to ESPN
too. I did not see that coming.
NFL almost always king.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Anyways, we're back on here. The Jets are up at 43.
I also would say, because I see Logan's comment.
I want to talk about this too.
Let's see how the draft plays out. Okay. I don't love this pick at all.
No.
But there's still 4 more picks that we know of to be made.
It's literally impossible to say definitively how anybody has done. Like the Eagles, everyone's saying like they fleeced it best, and like I agree, but that's my opinion. It's not a fact until we see the players play.
Yeah,
you can't know that Will Levis sucks. And like I've been telling people about this with Skoronski because he's the ultimate tape versus traits guy, right? If you watch the tape, he's a tackle. If you look at the traits, he's a guard. Oh, look at Joe Tippmann. Some people's top center.
Robert Saleh's gonna love him.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun guy for him. But if what were we talking about? Oh,
I'm sorry. I
am squirrel like that as well. We cannot know with Skoronski, for example, if you watch the tape, he's a tackle. If you look at the traits, he's a guard. People are already saying, and they've been saying before the Titans ever had him for months of this process. Oh, Skoronski, you mean the guard? And it bothers me to no end because, first of all, clearly you have not watched any tape. If anybody that has watched tape and is a decent talent evaluator has some doubt in their mind, even if it's minimal, as to what he's going to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, how a team chooses to use him, you may be like, there's no way a team chooses to use him as tackle. But what he could be, you do not know if you've watched the tape. So he's a perfect example of, for all of these guys, everything, who does well, who does bad. Rand has a terrible draft. That is your opinion, Logan, which you're welcome to have. I disagree because we're 2 picks in and we're 10 seconds into day 2. But even then, we're not going to know how this draft turns out until really 2 or 3 years down the road. I mean, we'll get some indication a year from now. You don't really know until 3 to 4 years down the road, really. And it's one of those things where I think you have to be patient. And this kind of comment is the kind of thing that you look really stupid for if in 3 years Will Levis is a Matt Stafford and Peter Skoronski is a 2-time All-Pro guard.
Yeah.
That's you mean the best start to a GM's career drafting ever? That guy who had the worst draft ever? Yeah. So you got to be careful with that kind of thing.
I do appreciate the energy though. I like the energy. Like, let's,
in the war room, you mean? Or
no, in Logan's
with
comment.
this. Oh, yeah. Sure.
I love it. Like, let's be mad. Let's just do it. I feel it too.
I refuse.
I feel it too.
I refuse. I will say, and I everyone that's mad, like, I'm not going to tell you how to feel. I will say that by August there is a 0% chance people are still upset because that's how fandom works, right? Even the guys that you hate, people will be mad, they'll be seething, and you will talk people will start to watch the tape maybe for the first time on Levis. They'll discover, oh, he played in 2021. There's there's actually some decent stuff in here. How about that? He was hurt the whole season. I didn't know that. Oh, all of his talent left after 2021. Oh, gotcha. Oh, his OC left and the new OC was a disaster. Gotcha. Like, if you are trying to build a case for why Will Levis in 2022 was an unfair, evaluation, there's plenty of ammo there. Now, a lot of people, I'm like yourself, I'm assuming, don't subscribe to that, but I'm sure even you can be like, if Levis works out, then that's the thing you'll point to and be like, that's why. There's plenty of reasons why it was confusing to people.
Yeah, and there are things about his game that I do like. You do see the potential, like, immediately the throw from the Mississippi State game comes to mind where he just effortlessly, like, takes 2 steps back, evades pressure, and just flicks his wrist. And it's, when you factor in across the field and depth, it's like a 80-yard touchdown throw. You see those bombs on his tape and you're like, oh man, that's the guy. If we can harness that, it's going to be a fun ride.
From an athletic testing standpoint, there's nothing to worry about with Will Levis because he's a prototypical quarterback build. He's got a big arm. It is all between the ears, accuracy, intangibles.
What do you think about the people saying, like, he's too jacked to play quarterback?
I think it's funny. I do think that there is maybe some truth to it, simply because, and we'll find out, right? Because he has that sawed-off release where it looks like his traps are so big he physically can't get his arm back behind his head. Yeah. Because so he comes back to here, and then, like, it looks like he is just, it's not a sidearm throw, but it's like it's a sawed off. If you're a golfer, it's like, you're taking your 60 degree from 40 yards out and it's a half swing kind of thing that he's got with his arm in the motion. On tape, it looks like he can't. Now, maybe that's just bad technique and they'll fix that, or maybe it's just the way that his arm mechanics work. Either way, it's something they're probably going to want to change. We're both hungry, and there's plenty more to talk about, plenty more picks to watch. So we'll watch here the Colts pick, since they're an AFC South team. And then this last question from Tanner Sexton, we'll talk about.
I do want to say real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
I did say that if the Titans ended up with Will Levis, I would do mayo in my coffee. and I'm a man of my word. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every media personality in town is at some point going to do that. I'm not sure if I want to do that. Julius Brents to the Colts. Okay, so they get their
I like that.
They get their replacement for Stephon Gilmore, who goes to the Cowboys.
Put him out there and hope for Stephon Gilmore Colts.
Yeah.
Let's see how that works out.
I'm not super high on Brents. He's a top 10 corner for me in this class, but in terms of guys that were left, I liked a lot of other guys better than Brents.
Cam Smith still hasn't gone, has he?
Right.
DJ Turner?
Both of the Carolina guys are still there. I like both of the Carolina guys better than Brents personally.
I think I do too, but I can't remember.
Well, the other guys, he's the prototypical build. He's just not played a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of a project.
Let's see where I've got him.
I like Keeley Ringo better than him, but I'm higher on Ringo than most.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I think Ringo has gotten hate for no reason. I think it's a thing.
There is some awkward, choppy movement to his game, but I think he was kind of miscast. If people think that he's going to be like a pure man corner, I don't think that's how you use him. I think he's going to be a good zone corner in the NFL.
So let's answer this question, and then we'll take probably a 10-minute break. Don't go anywhere.
Damn.
We'll be right back.
Julius Brents at cornerback 11.
Okay, so that's kind of, I had him, I think, at either 9 or 10. Let's talk about, and we'll talk about this more when we get back. Titans are next up, unless something else happens, at 81.
Yeah.
Based on what has happened so far, are we updating what they need? It's still kind of the same for me.
Still kind of the same.
You go receiver, you go tight end, you double down on line. You kind of put the Will Levis pick. You just pretend that didn't happen and just keep going.
Yeah, because I don't think it was an urgent need, so it wasn't factored into like these are the things they have to get.
Right, that's what I was going to say. If the three different scenarios we laid out for what could happen with Levis, whether he starts immediately, halfway through the season, or next year, all three of those scenarios, it's still the same list of needs to me. Like it doesn't change how you approach this draft to me. I don't see. I think you still build to compete because you're already halfway into trying to build to compete. So you put together what you need to do that. Zach wants to point out here while we're still talking about Levis, and we're going to be talking about Levis all night long now.
Can't wait.
Yep. He says, tiny victory in a dark time. The Mayo, and this is true. I can fact check this. The Mayo and banana peel thing was a one-off bit for TikTok. It was just a joke. He does not actually regularly drink mayo in his coffee and eat bananas with the shell on.
Okay. All right. So that means we don't have to do it, right?
Don't tell local radio hosts that. That's free content, baby. I already saw some people doing it this past week in anticipation of the draft, just trying it out.
Man,
which is a hard pass from me. Zach also said,
I'm getting so many text messages.
I know.
People checking on me.
They're going to get responses at like midnight from me.
I made it pretty clear my opinions on Levis. So now everybody is
exactly fun of me. Zach, I'm being facetious. I've heard a lot of people talk about. He's making fun of me for saying banana with the shell on and not the peel or the skin on. It's a joke to just make fun of how ridiculous that is, and I think it's funnier. Zach also says, but he did say that his accuracy and decision makings were some of his best traits, so he's delusional.
Yeah.
Which I can easily spin as you want a quarterback that is delusional. That's kind of how being an NFL player works. You always, I mean, like you got to be Patrick Mahomes and think people doubt you. Remember when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and it's like, nobody thought we'd even win our division. It's like, no, man, everybody thought you'd win your division. You're being delusional right now.
I think he should get more muscular too.
Become a power lifter?
Yeah.
Just get roided up and try to just subvert the rules of the NFL.
Like Dave Bautista out there throwing the ball around the yard.
I do wonder why he's so interested in the upper body, like bodybuilding.
I don't know.
Because it's not full body. Like he's got normal looking legs and he's got a normal looking, he's rocked up and everything. He looks kind of like Ryan Tannehill if Tannehill just did curls all day, every day.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what, somebody, a Big J can ask him about his workout routine. Maybe that is some good that can come out of this that, we can all get some fitness tips from Will Levis.
D-Good asks, while we're still on the topic of Levis here, what did the Titans see that we don't? And this is something that we're going to talk about till the cows come home. I see what they see.
Yeah, there's plenty to see.
Now, to be fair, if he's asking from a fan perspective, fans do not see this because there really is a cult of Will Levis is the Antichrist that has kind of cropped up in the last month. Even the most down on Will Levis talent evaluators in the NFL were not at the level that a lot of these fans are. And you know what it was, right? It's SEC brain. Like it has to be SEC brain. We're in ball country. And the Vols, obviously, they hate all other quarterbacks in the SEC, but especially Kentucky is a team that has been kind of somewhat of a rivalry over the years. But you're pulling up, I'm seeing you're getting out the write-up for Will Levis here.
Yeah, I mean,
is there a pros section on there, or did we nix the pros? Is there a pros? It's just cons.
Yeah, just
Okay.
cons. No, I think you do see some NFL throws on his tape. It's not consistent, but it's there. I like his frame. I think he has potential in the run game, and a lot of people aren't really talking about that.
Just with mobility,
maneuverability in the pocket. Oh, there goes. Oh man,
our guy. Pour one out for Cody Mock. And I feel bad that he has to go toil in Tampa Bay with a directionless team. Dadgummit. We do love Cody Mock though. Only guy in the class with 5-position versatility. Absolute monster. Okay. Anyways, back to Will Levis.
I think you see the big arm too. The problem is you see the big arm on throws that are like 5 yards down the field sometimes too.
No touch.
It's like the touch there is, you kind of think like, man, if we could iron that out, maybe it would be okay. And I also think you see the big arm. It's not just the short intermediate stuff that he's firing rifles on, but he has some deep overthrows too, where guys are open down the field and he's just a little bit off. So you see the arm strength there for sure, arm talent, as some people say, but I think there needs to be some more consistent touch. So if you get that, and like, again, I can't remember if we talked about this or if we talked about this on a football show last night.
Well, we'll double dip either way.
But, we don't know from the interviews what the Titans learned, doing their due diligence, talking to Will Levis.
Clearly, they went well, the interviews.
Well, yeah,
which
sure.
We heard a lot about how teams around the league weren't crazy about the vibe, but then we heard Mike Vrabel, fan of the vibe.
You would think, I mean, it's not like I'm seeing anything on. Oh, I'm sorry, I just hit the microphone.
Everybody at home.
Yeah, I know. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I did not see anything that the Titans did not see. I'm sure. So you would think that they trust their coaching staff to coach the issues out of Levis, and at the very least say, hey, it's worth giving it a shot to take this guy, to trade up in the second round to take him. Like we can work with the raw physical athletic traits. Yes. And I think that is the upside of the pick, is that if they're able to do that, then boom, you've got your franchise quarterback.
Let me give my opinion on this based on my evaluation. And we talked at length on my show, the Hot Read podcast, with Sean McAvoy, who is the quarterback coach of Malik Willis, but he's also he did all the draft prep for a lot of guys. Jalen Hurts is a guy you might know. Yeah, Trey Lance is a guy you might know.
Heard of them.
Deshaun Watson is a guy you might wish you didn't know. He's done a lot of very impressive guys. This guy knows quarterbacks. He knows quarterback talent. And we had him on for our top 10 quarterback show. And when we're talking through Will Levis, who was my quarterback 4, he agreed with me that these were the two things that people were in conflict on, that I think there's an answer here, and I don't know what it is. And I'm curious your opinion. The two biggest knocks that you hear thrown around with Levis are decision-making, accuracy. And that's why Zach a moment ago pointed out that he thinks that he's delusional for that. When I watch the tape, I think the decision-making issues people see with him aren't actually decision-making issues. I think they're accuracy issues. And I think it makes it look like he made a horrible decision when in reality, just the mechanics didn't work. And what he had in his head was the right idea, but it was due to his accuracy, which is actually, I think, a symptom of something else. But let's not make too many conversations at once here. We can talk about that more later.
Yeah.
Do you see more accuracy issues or more decision-making issues on tape when you watched him?
It's more accuracy issues to me because, like I said, some of those misses down the field were the right decision to make. He just didn't land the throw.
Dude's open. Yeah.
And some of the stuff that I mentioned, the short intermediate stuff, right decision, just don't throw the ball at 500 miles an hour to a guy that's, just barely upfield.
Which I will say, one upside, Titans fans, you may see, if you see Will Levis this year, you'll see a lot of that.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of it with the Colts too, because the only guy in this class that has worse touch than Will Levis is Anthony Richardson. Dude he only throws lasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my bigger issue, and maybe this is getting away from the conversation a little bit, so rein me in if you have to.
It's okay. We'll take it where we go.
The issue with the accuracy for me is
Logan, you're not. Never mind.
The mechanics, I think you can work with mechanics, right? We hear it all the time, like, his footwork's not that great, but let's get him in and coach him up on it and let's see what happens. For me, the issues with accuracy come from a sort of, I don't see the best feel for the game. To me, that was the difference between he and Anthony Richardson. It felt like Anthony Richardson,
I agree,
was almost at home when the pocket collapsed around him and he could
Agreed.
wiggle around to either
1,000%
make the throw down the field or take off running with his legs. With Will Levis, it almost felt like there were times that he was processing like half a second behind everybody else on the field.
Okay.
So situations, for example, where you see him escape the pocket, and I wish I could remember off the top of my head the exact game I saw this in, but seeing a clip on Twitter from, I think it was the Mississippi State game, it might have been the Georgia game, where he escapes the pocket and gets to the outside and hits the check down. Miracle throw with defenders draped over his body. People are watching this and saying, wow, there's this element to Will Levis's game that we see in the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen's type, the escapability, play extension, that sort of thing. I'm watching that as the timer should have gone off, where you should have gotten away from that rush a little bit sooner. And why didn't that happen? And to me, that sort of thing, a feel for pressure and a feel for the pocket around you, seems like one of the things, I don't know, I'm no expert, seems like one of those things that's harder to coach out of a player than just, hey, let's get your footwork right.
Sure.
And to me, that's the biggest reason. I think the supporting cast arguments are valid.
Sorry, just so I'm on the same page. What is the biggest reason? The pocket,
the feel for the game,
or the foot? What's the feel over,
for the
over
game.
Footwork?
Yeah,
see, I disagree. I think that the accuracy issue is a footwork based issue.
Well, I think it's both.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, but and you're right. They do go hand in hand. But that's the big thing with accuracy, just in general.
To put a bow on the Will Levis talk that we were having.
Yeah.
The footwork versus the feel for the game. The way I would frame it is, I think,
one out for Zach, by the way. Jaden Reed, he's sad as a guy.
Oh, I know. That's
would have been a great Titan, Zach. I agree with you for sure.
The thing that worries me is that while I think both are issues, I think the footwork can be corrected with coaching.
100% it can.
I don't know if the sensing of the pressure can be.
Sure, you would have to hope. They do go so hand in hand. If you're glass half fulling it,
yeah,
you fix the footwork, then the feel in turn starts to turn. The biggest question, to kind of take it a step back and zoom out a little bit. Hey there, Cam Smith finally to the Dolphins. I love that pick.
I like Cam Smith a lot.
That's going to be he'll be a number one or a day one starter for them at cornerback, and they're going to be a good team in the NFC East, or the AFC East rather, is going to be very good.
That's their first pick in this draft, isn't it?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been, but then they cheated, so they got
taken
away. Yeah. This is their first one, so congratulations to them.
Oh,
Cam Smith's a maniac.
Truck
dude.
stick.
He attacks you as a tackler like he thinks he's 20 pounds heavier than he is.
Yeah, I know.
Very similar to the way that the Illinois kid that went to Seattle.
Devin Witherspoon.
Totally blanking. Yeah. Devin Witherspoon, kind of the same deal. But the big question in general with accuracy, and I've talked to a number of people about this, I've brought it up on shows all season. The worry when a quarterback is coming out with accuracy issues, you're hoping it's one thing and you're worrying it's another. The worry is, and it's hard to explain this because it's just an intangible thing. Some dudes, they can have the best mechanics in the world, they can have great technique and feel and presence and like they're mentally they're seeing everything. And just from a whatever biomechanics or just the way that they're built, they don't got it when it comes to their accuracy. There's nothing you can do to fix it. Then some guys, it is like a Josh Allen situation where the accuracy issues are a symptom of another element of your game being poor. And when you fix, for example, with Josh Allen, and I think with Will Levis, when you watch the tape, man, I'm not sure you see two throws in a row from Will Levis where his base is the same. Every single time he's off the back foot, off the front foot. Yeah. He's square to the line of scrimmage. He's square to the end zone. He's scrambling to the left. He's scrambling to the right. He's always changing his platform. He is always changing the base from which he is firing the ball. And that's a recipe in anything. when you don't have consistency to begin with, you're gonna be a disaster with the result. The result is gonna be different every time, just like the base is different every time.
Yeah.
The good thing is fixing your footwork, fixing your base. That is a very coachable thing. Like that kind of thing can be fixed and be developed. And so clearly, we got the question a minute ago. What do the Titans see that we don't? They see a guy who's accuracy issues. They think whether they're right or they're wrong, they're either correct or they're delusional. They think that we'll just get that footwork fixed. We'll fix that base, and suddenly he'll be rocking and rolling, and we've got our guy.
Even if they don't think they can fix it, they think the value was there to roll the dice.
It's worth the shot.
It's worth the shot to try it. Yeah, that's the silver lining there.
Yeah,
and you know what? I should also point out for our viewers that my wife reminded me that when I started scouting Will Levis, it was out of place of curiosity because I really liked the traits. So,
and
my own wife calling me out,
man. The traits are there.
My own wife calling me out.
The traits are there. You're unlike a Bryce Young or unlike in other positions, Devin Witherspoon is a little undersized, a Manuel Forbes who's Flat Stanley, a Nolan Smith who his RAS web is literally the time 10:30. He's I've been calling him Mr. 10:30 this whole draft. Like, you're not having to bank on an outlier from a trait standpoint, from a size standpoint, from an athleticism standpoint.
Sure.
The prototypical quarterback is what Will Levis is from a on paper standpoint. It is all between the ears. I want to look into this, Stoney, because the big thing that I think people are gonna be debating all week. The number one thing is going to be if you didn't have the conviction to take him at 11, why do you take him where you took him? Well, and also if you're willing to trade up for it, like you weren't willing to take him at 11, but you were willing to trade up for him in the second round. Why is that? It's a fair question, and there's certainly something to the idea of maybe you shouldn't draft a quarterback at all. In the second, like, there's kind of two tiers, right? Because once you get to third and fourth, then you're taking a flyer on a guy, right? And then you're not banking on him being a number one or first round number one overall quarterback in the class. You're hoping that it just works out. It's something about that second round quarterback that rubs people the wrong way, because if you're taking him in the second, why are you taking him in the first? Clearly you think he's going to be a guy.
Well, I think maybe they just had him graded as a second round pick.
And it's truly
it's a value
if
thing.
Rand Carthen's a BPA guy, Will Levis was the best available. I mean, according to many, the consensus, he was the highest positional value left on the board here.
Well, and maybe the value's not there at 11, but maybe they just view the draft differently in the sense that, you know what, we can get everything that we need with just, our 4 picks later on or something like that. And maybe they just see the magnitude of Levis's ceiling and what it can mean for the franchise, that they're like, you know what, we can't pass this up. Didn't think he would be here in the second.
Mm-hmm.
We can't pass this opportunity up.
I'm going to present kind of a conspiracy theory. Less a conspiracy theory and more just a theory, but maybe a little conspiratorial.
Some reckless speculation. That's the name of my game.
Let me start with this. If I had told you, Stoney, that the Titans had gone Skoronski at 11, but then they had chosen to trade back into the first round, and at random, let's say 18 overall, then they take Levis, would we be having this discussion about conviction? Not the same discussion, I don't think. I think it would be totally different.
Not the same discussion, but I think you could still technically make the same argument.
It just wouldn't be as strong.
It just wouldn't be as strong, yeah.
So I kind of think that maybe, when you look at the way that the order actually fell, just in terms of quarterback needy teams, I think the Titans, and this keeps sticking with me, from the first presser they did last night, what did Rand Carthen say? We didn't think Skoronski would be here at 11. We were shocked he was there, and we were really excited that he was there.
Ooh,
he's there at 11. If Skoronski hadn't been there, and the reason he wouldn't have been there was the Bears decided to go Darnell Wright instead of Skoronski. If they go Skoronski, and now the options for the Titans are JSN, who clearly they didn't have valued as an 11th overall pick, or at least better than Skoronski.
Yeah.
And, a lineman who's a kind of a, 1B or second tier guy. Yeah. What would they have done there? Maybe they would have gone Levis.
You're right,
man. But because Skoronski was there, they could not pass that up. And I think the reason why they didn't then come back into, because that would have at least shown some conviction if they had gone from 41 up to 18.
Yeah.
Clearly it would have been like, okay, well, they clearly think this guy's a first rounder. They've got enough conviction with a team that does not have much draft capital, is coming up all the way back up to 18 from 41. Clearly they like this guy. I don't think fans would have nearly as much a problem with the whole conviction thing. But when you look at the way the board fell, and I've got it here on our monitor, the Titans go at 11. They're perceived as a quarterback needy team. The Lions at 12, people have wondered whether or not they'd go quarterback, but if they were really needy, they had the 6th overall pick, right? They could have gone earlier, and they chose not to. They traded back.
Yeah.
And then you've got Green Bay, obviously not needy. Pittsburgh, no. The Jets, no. Washington, arguably, but there's not been much smoke there. New England, the smoke was they'd only go for one if they were managed to offload Mac Jones, which they couldn't.
Yeah.
The Lions, again, because they traded back up. Tampa Bay, I think once you got to pick 20, you get to the Seahawks again, who've had chances to go quarterback if they wanted them. From 20 on, it's Seahawks, Chargers, Ravens, Vikings are maybe the only team you can make this argument for. Giants, Bills, Cowboys, Jaguars, Bengals, Saints, Eagles, Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Those final 11 picks, I'm guessing the Titans looked at that and said, man, we want to come back up for Will Levis. Like, we want him. We want to make sure we get him. But frankly, we're willing to bet that none of these teams are going to sniff him. They're not going to touch him. And so why go all the way up there to get him then if we are truly confident that the main group, the first 11 to 15 picks that contain actual quarterback needy teams are back up around? We only need to jump them. We don't need to jump all these guys at the back end of the first. Yeah. And that changes the math a little bit.
Pair that also with the idea we've heard executives, scouts anonymously tipping people that, well, Levis Levis was not a first round pick on the tape. Like, people saying the tape's not that good. So you can sort of utilize that knowledge if you're the Titans and feel confident that, hey, you know what? Everybody's kind of down on this guy. It's not the hype train that the media is making it out to be. We can ride this out, and he's still likely going to be there.
All right, here we go. We got Tennessee on the clock.
I'm leaning Tyler Scott.
Prediction
my
or
wish.
I'm leaning. I will be very happy with Tyler Scott. I'll be happy with Michael Wilson. I will be happy if they get Darnell Washington, because that means they must they must have cleared him medically. Those three I'll be happy with. If they go Perry, it'll be a reach, but I won't be able to be upset because I really like Perry.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what. But like, in terms of guess, I'd say this is a 50% shot. They go with Scott, unless all of that was just noise. I have a hard time believing that. All right, so we think it's gonna be Tyler Scott. There's a couple different guys we wouldn't be upset with.
Yeah. What if they go running back here?
Will you be upset with Tyjae Spears?
That's,
it'd be hard for you guys. The big team, I mean, the TS guys. Zach, if you're still in here, would you be pissed at Tyjae Spears, your boy?
I'm losing it. I'm losing my grip. Just crossing my arms, beating on the microphone.
It's a nerve-wracking time. It's a lot of waiting for. Here we go.
I slept for
Who is this?
4 hours. Jason McCourty.
Oh, it's McCourty. Yeah.
I got 4 hours of sleep last night.
Me, that's about how much I got. Your guy, Tyjae Spears.
Okay.
All right.
Hey.
So
all right.
A lot
of
Titans fans are going to not be happy about that.
Yeah.
But in a vacuum, you can't be upset with getting that play.
No.
You can't.
I am surprised that.
And in terms of skill players, I mean, you now have a guy that can bring some juice to the game in addition to Henry at the running back department.
He is the exact running back they needed out of this draft.
He's the perfect complement.
Yeah.
Perfect complement.
And I think he can be running back one whenever
in the future
we're considering life after Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
I still worry about the receiving class, though.
Yeah, of course. But hey, I think this points us back to, and I've been sitting here this whole time, like, I'm not as positive as everybody they're going to go receiver here.
I know.
What did we hear? I forget when it was, but I'm sure you heard this. They did a press conference at some point, and the takeaway was as much as Titans fans are not happy with this receiving core that they've got, internally they are happy with the young guys that they have.
Well, yeah,
internally I mean, Burks and Phillips, thank you, and NWI who they bring back, like they're
Chris Moore now.
Pretty content. Yeah, Jacob says bad news for Hassan Haskins. Yes, I would say that's not great.
Oh gosh,
Hassan Haskins.
I don't.
Him and I was a big Yaya Diaby fan. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Bummer he has to go to that terrible team. Okay, so yeah, I mean these guys in the receiving room, the Titans are happier with than most. And I think this is a clear reflection of that. They're content with these guys and they see more value in, I mean, if this is going to continue to be a team that doesn't necessarily, if they're not going to play through the run game, but they're going to still have the identity of a run game. You know what I mean? Like they keep talking about, like, we might be transitioning to a more modern style of football. I don't see them really, as long as Mike Vrabel is around, getting that modern and just, ignoring the run game, just going full Kansas City and just who cares.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they need to reload, and they reload with the guy in terms of value. He was my running back 3.
Yeah, he was mine as well.
And so you get the third best running back in this class, a guy that I think you can play day one. I think that he's a relatively polished guy. Pull up, let's see what you had to say on the scouting report.
Okay, yeah. I was just making sure that I just so confidently opened my mouth. And I'm like, wait, I do actually have him at running back 3. But yes, I do. Oh my God. I flipped right to the page.
That's
right to the page.
Right there. That is fate.
Yeah. So, and another thing, I listed this the other day on Twitter. My 5 favorite games that I watched throughout the process of putting together this big board. His game against USC, one of the 5 best games I watched.
So Titans fans, if you want to get up on
go
Tyjae
watch the
Spears,
Cotton Bowl. Watch the Cotton
Bowl versus USC.
Yeah. Burst, acceleration, pure speed all come to mind when you watch Spears right off the bat. It's his versatility, patience, and vision that make him an intriguing prospect to me. He's great at finding the hole. When he makes up his mind, he cuts clean and he bleeping goes. I'm editing for
I appreciate that.
The Hot Read podcast. Yeah. His pass catching potential is underrated. He has the talent to run routes. I watched the Houston game and found a touchdown he catches off of running a pretty nice little route there. You just don't see it too often on his tape.
Yep.
Tulane didn't give him a very nuanced route tree. He's mostly effective catching the ball on screens, wheel routes, stuff like that. But I think there is potential for more of robust receiving skill set because of how naturally he uses his hands to catch the ball. They also ran a lot of Wildcat with him. The Cotton Bowl against USC made for some great film. 205 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. Looked completely unafraid of the moment, picked up some major chunk yardage after finding the hole and getting into space, and showed some tough running, including a gutsy touchdown run. USC was able to get him before he could get going, which raises concerns about how he'll adjust to NFL defenses. Not going to be playing in the American Conference any longer, and he did have a fumble from getting a little too loose with the ball and carrying it unnaturally high from trying to avoid contact. His pass protection ability is unproven, which limits his value in the NFL, but this is a guy that could make some noise if he ends up on the right team. 49ers, Rams, Ravens, Eagles, or the Tennessee Titans.
Bingo.
Yeah, and I would also say that I noticed at the Senior Bowl, I wrote this, I did my study on him before the Senior Bowl, and my update after that was in the pass pro drills where they're running like one-on-one, a linebacker trying to pass rush, running back trying to stop him. He had some times when he got put on his back, but he was a really feisty, fiery guy. If he got knocked down, he would get up and win the next 5 reps before you're questioning him again. So I think there's plenty in this prospect to see and love and latch onto, and it's clear as to why the Titans love this running back.
Did you have a pro comp for him? Because I know that Zach has one that I've always agreed with since the first time I heard him say it. He mentions it here, and there's 2 comments here. He says, the Titans would do this to me and Stoney. They draft our favorite prospect that at the detriment of the interesting receiver core. And then he says, but Spears is Tony Pollard. He's awesome and amazing. He can do everything you need. I completely agree. Not only is he the Tony Pollard to your Zeke in Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is significantly better than Zeke currently is, this this allows us to quit having to worry about Derrick Henry being out there on third downs.
Yeah.
And if he's not being so telegraphy with it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if Henry's out there, if Haskins out there, like it was pretty clear whether or not you're going to run or whether you're going to pass, and you got a pass pro guy. With Spears, you could truly have him potentially do both, right? And then you have that maintain that element of surprise. I know we had a question up here just a second ago from Jordan Lowry asking, EF, do you see the Titans trading back up here? I don't. If they did, I would assume it had to have been for Tyler Scott or maybe Darnell Washington, but they've not had really any smoke. Titans fans just really like him. If they did, I don't know what picks they're using to do that.
I don't either.
Unless it's futures, but potentially I could see that. Now, if you're asking me, could they find their way into the fourth round tomorrow somehow? Yeah, maybe. But tonight, I'm not sure if I necessarily am buying it. Logan just asked, can Spears line up in the slot? I don't know what his usage was.
I think he can.
I think just from an evaluation standpoint, I believe that he can.
I mean, they would line him up out wide.
Yeah, and I mean Tulane
at times.
Yeah, but yeah. But the point is, he has route running prowess because he has route running experience quite a bit at a number of positions, really.
Well, I think you see the things that make him a natural pass catcher that would project if he's asked to do more. You feel confident like he can pick it up.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll pull up his numbers here to see where exactly he was used in terms of Devon A-Chain, Fast Boy. Maybe we see a run on running backs finally, because that's the first couple of running backs we've had in quite a while. Crazy, wicked fast dude. Track star, but he's actually got running back potential or running back talent. All right, let's see.
What if, the Titans trade back up for Tyler Scott, but they use the rest of their picks to do it?
Just all the rest of them?
You just
5, 6, 7?
You just come away from this draft with Skoronski, Levis, Spears, and Scott.
The power quad. All right, let's see. Tyjae Spears in college. Oh, they don't. I don't think they have. Dadgummit. They don't have his splits. So I don't know. But I can tell you based on, his receiving, he didn't do a whole lot of receiving in college. He would line up there, I guess. But he had 250 yards of receiving last year, so he wasn't not in the receiving game. He had 1,500 yards rushing last year on 231 attempts, 6.9 yards per attempt, almost 20 touchdowns last year. This dude was the entire Tulane offense.
Yeah, he really was
the entire offense.
If you want a pro comp for me, I think it would be NFL Reggie Bush. Not USC Reggie Bush, certainly, but NFL Reggie Bush. Like New Orleans Saints Reggie Bush.
Good Reggie Bush.
Yeah. Deion Henley, good linebacker.
I like him. Yeah. Logan is asking, I think he's following up on his question, wondering if you could potentially play him and Henry together to get more skill on the field. You would need to see Tyjae really develop as a guy you could actually line up in the slot comfortably to do that, I think.
Yeah.
You're not going to have two running back sets with both of them on the field. Very often, maybe on certain very specific plays, but in terms of getting them both on the field, you would need one of them. Now, we have seen Derrick Henry line up out wide. They've been using that. Yeah. So if that kind of scheme is still in the playbook, maybe we see Tyjae be the one that's thrown out wide, and instead of a fullback being left, it's Henry. In which case, it does. I'll tell you this: just in terms of weapons on the offense, yes, he's not a receiver, but he is a versatile guy that's going to bring juice to the offense wherever you use him. If you're going to line him up wide and then you run him as a reverse and you come around the side and that speed just takes off, it gives the Titans. He's a very different player than they've had in a while. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
I think I'm trying to think of the last guy that had kind of that same. Oh, our pizza finally
how about
showed
that?
up.
The pizza is here. Papa John knocking on our door.
The last guy that I can think of.
The last guy that I can
the last guy that Easton can think of.
The last guy that Easton can think of
is.
Man, I don't know. I felt like there was a run there for a while that they took these like late round flyers on guys that could have developed into that. Logan mentions
They used
Hilliard.
that's what I was going to say. That's the closest thing that I can think of
Yeah.
in a while. And this past year before Hilliard got hurt, I mean, you remember in the first 4 games, it was like, oh, Hilliard has 4 of the 5 Titans touchdowns or something. You remember it was like, wow, the red zone threat. They could utilize, yes, thank you, Logan. They could absolutely utilize Tyjae as a fantastic skill player in a number of different ways. So in terms of if we're looking at how does this fit the perceived theme that this team and this new regime is following, I would comfortably put Tyjae Spears under the umbrella of versatility.
Yeah. I like the pick, and I have been saying all along that there's good value to be had in the later rounds in this wide receiving core. And I think this is where you see that come into play a little bit, where clearly there's some confidence, as Easton mentioned, in the receiving core in its current iteration. But maybe we're the only ones that see a need for 2 wide receivers. I mean, maybe in the building they're thinking, like, if we can come away with 1 guy out of this draft, cool. Like,
I truly, and have for a while now, anyone that has listened to my show knows that I think this. I believe that they think, and I personally also think, they regardless of what we ultimately on the whole season saw out of Kyle Phillips last year, I think he showed them enough and has inspired confidence in that building that they truly believe that they have 2 bona fide starting receivers, and they just need 1 more.
Yeah.
Now there's a depth concern there, and maybe they're saying we can find a PK has some delightful cranky tweet. Well, you could take off the about the wide receiver situation part and just say PK has some delightfully cranky tweets, and it would apply at all of the hours. And I love PK. PK is the man, and I have a relationship with him, but he's a delightfully cranky fellow. Zach Lyons starving for Marvin 2024. I do love that. If you tweet that, I will absolutely second that, Zach. Logan saying we're going back to the caveman ooga booga football, going back to 12 man heavy personnel. Listen, buddy, I don't hate the idea. I for the love of the good Lord above, I cannot ever remember this dude's name. Who is the Cowboys? Or is it not Cowboys? Who's the tight end they brought in? Who's going to be the tight end 3, the in the line blocking guy? It was like a sneaky big ad for them.
Trevon Wesco?
Wesco, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Wesco. With Wesco on the team, who I think is going to be used a lot. Obviously as a glorified lineman, that's what he really is. But I could see them going big boy football a lot. They need another big tight end. Like, you're not going big boy football with Chika Okonkwo.
Oh gosh, we forgot. They still have Mason Kinsey too, don't they?
I believe he's still technically on the practice squad. I think he has a futures contract.
My goodness, the receiving problem solved.
We have 3 starters.
Yeah,
there's 3 starters on the team.
Come on, what are we worried about?
All right. Appreciate you listening to that. Hopefully you enjoyed reliving, or maybe you had a little PTSD from reliving the Titans' first 3 draft picks. Regardless, make sure to come back tomorrow on Tuesday morning when we've got our first post-draft video in earnest. We're going to be going through all of the picks that they made, all 6 picks, some draft philosophy, some things that surprised us about the draft with the Titans and some other teams. We'll be answering some fake questions and be giving real answers to those questions. It's a fun segment. I always look forward to it. Can't wait for you to listen to that. And then make sure to keep this feed high on your priority list, because the offseason is not upon us in earnest. Okay. The NFL is a machine. It is nearly a year-long product. And while things maybe get slower around here in June and July, we certainly will not be slowing down all that much for May. The NFL is releasing their schedule on May 11th. So in just a little bit under 2 weeks now, we will have the schedule to react to and break down. We're also going to be doing a series on each player the Titans drafted. Going to be getting some special guests that have special insight into each of these players to join us, talk about them. And then a couple of other episodes we'll be doing here and there with some Titans news. We've got one big guest who, you know what? If you've listened to the end of this episode, I'll go ahead and announce it now. A guy by the name of Danny Kelly, you may know from The Ringer. He puts together one of the probably 5 biggest draft guides every single year. He's on the NFL Draft Show, the Ringer NFL Draft Show, the Ringer NFL fantasy football show. He is amazing. We met and got acquainted in Indianapolis at the Combine. JT and I ended up sharing an Uber with him, and we bought him a drink. And we hit him up and we said, hey, you want to get us back for that drink? Come on the show. We'll talk about this draft. And he said, let's do it. So not positive about when that's going to come out in the next week or two for sure. You won't want to miss that one because he's awesome and hilarious and really knows what he's talking about. So a lot of great content coming down the pipe on this show. If you aren't already subscribed, please do so. I'll consider it a personal favor if you can subscribe. And then really, this is the big part. If you can scroll down to the bottom of that feed, find the stars where under the rating section, give it a 5-star rating, and then leave a review of any type. And we know we have a couple to get to that we've missed in the past 2 weeks of craziness. But if you leave a 5-star review, whatever you write, whether it is your Twitter handle or your Instagram handle or a personal shout out for yourself, or just telling us how much you love the show, how much you hate the show. We love criticism around here. Okay. Criticism is a learning experience for us all. It's a gift. Feedback is a gift. So we appreciate anything that you leave for us, as long as it is in the form of a 5-star rating, and we'll read it out on the show. Leave your Twitter handle. We'll give you a follow. We'll tell all of our hundreds of listeners to give you a follow. It'll be a fun time. All right. We'll be back Tuesday morning. First thing, make sure to check it out. It'll be our best episode in a while. Cannot wait for that one. We can unload the 10,000 thoughts that I have, both from a 10,000-foot perspective, and then maybe go into a little bit of detail on each of these guys. Certainly going into detail on each of them as we do a series on each of them in the coming days and weeks. Until then, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. We'll talk to you tomorrow.